Right, you lot. Strap in, shut fuck up, and toss your safe spaces in nearest skip, because today's rant is going in dry, rusty, and wrapped in barbed wire. Gaming ain't just broken, it's fucking weaponised. And if you're still sat there thinking this is about fun, your human equivalent are a Wi-Fi signal at McDonald's. Slow, unreliable, and absolutely fucking tragic. We're diving head first into lawsuits slamming Activision's greasy face into curb. Because it turns out, when you build your games like digital crack dens and aim them straight at kids, even lawyers start sniffing around like sharks at a bleeding orgy. This ain't gonna be a polite conversation. This is verbal arson. We're lighting whole industry on fire, and we're pissing on ashes with jet fuel. You want to know how bad it's gotten? Activision, same gang of rat-fondling suits who turned Call of Duty from a war game into a neon glow casino for brain-dead dopamine junkies, are finally getting dragged into court. Not 'cause the game's a buggy, not 'cause their anti-cheat is about as effective as a paper condom, nah, 'cause they engineered addiction so fucking well that actual lawyers have had to step in and say, yeah, this looks less like a shooter and more like psychological fucking warfare. Let that marinate for a second. We're not talking about Karen whining on Facebook 'cause little Johnny dropped an F-bomb on Fortnite. We're talking full-blown litigation 'cause players' lives are getting torched in pursuit of fucking anime skins and a 0.01% better kill streaks. And don't you dare sit there thinking Activision stumbled into this by accident, like some drunk twat tripping over a curb. They're new. They're fucking new. They hired behavioural scientists like some Bond villain assembling a torture team. They studied variable reward systems like last fucking days of Rome. They made sure every loss stung just enough, every win hit just right, and every microtransaction slid into your psyche like a prison shank made of glitter. This wasn't just a game, mate. This were a goddamn lab experiment with your fucking soulless control group. And now people are waking up. Activision's busy playing world's smallest violin, screeching, we just wanted players to have fun. Fun? This shit ain't about fun. This shit's about as fun as getting waterboarded with Monster Energy. Let's not sugarcoat this. Activision's business model is basically paedophilic marketing with extra steps. These corporate necromancers aren't selling your games anymore. They're selling dopamine dependency to your kids, dressed up in cat's ears, tracer rounds, and TikTok emotes. You think it's a coincidence that every new Call of Duty skin pack looks like it was designed by a fucking Fortnite dropout with brain rot? Neon vomit, cartoon shit, big flashing numbers, loot popping out of corpses like one-armed bandit on crack. They're not making that shit for 35-year-olds who remember LAN parties and GoldenEye. They're aiming it straight at 12-year-olds wired on prime energy drinks and cocomelon withdrawal. These kids have brains softer than overcooked spaghetti. Impulse control? Non-existent. Critical thinking? You're lucky if they can spell it. And industry fucking knows it. They know exactly how to twist that development cortex into compulsive hamster wheel of grind, spend, rage, repeat. It's not just scummy, it's scientific. Variable rewards, FOMO events, battle passes that drip feed you rewards every time your KD gets fisted by packet loss. They're literally grooming a generation of digital crackheads, mate. Grooming them. I'm not pulling that word out of my ass for shock value. It's exactly what it is. Gradual, systemic psychological conditioning. Only instead of candy in a van, it's anime gun skins and limited XP boost. And what's Activision's big defence? Players have choice. Yeah, a choice like offering a starving man a poisoned steak and then blaming him for eating it. These pricks aren't developers anymore. They're fucking digital drug dealers. Only defence is street dealers have more fucking dignity. And it's not just Activision pulling string. Nah, mate. Biggest scumbags in this whole sewage parade are influencer rats who smiled, nodded, and sold you out for a few fucking brand deals and a creator code. You know what ones? Hey guys, new skins out. Smash that like button. While they're grinning like meth heads on payday while steering millions of wide-eyed kids straight into Activision's dopamine wood chipper. These talentless ghouls aren't gamers anymore. They're digital crap pushers with RGB chairs and fake mental health tweets. Every time you see one of these hollow-eyed, pastel hoodie-wearing twats pretending to care about community, just remember, they're only caring 'cause your addiction pays for their fucking Bugatti. They didn't just normalise rot, they celebrated it. They turned battle passes into badger honour flexes. They turned grinding into virtue signalling. They made microtransaction addiction look like dedication. And when systems start breaking kids, when parents start noticing bank statements that look like casino losses, these cunts were nowhere to be seen. No accountability, no apologies. Just another fucking tweet about how excited they are for new event. And when lawsuits started hitting, silence. Not a single one of these community leaders had bollocks to stand up and say, yeah, maybe getting 10-year-olds addicted to skins was a bad idea. Because see, it's a dirty little secret. They knew. They all fucking knew. And they kept grift going because clicks, subs and creator codes are worth more than your kid's mental health. These pricks are just as guilty as suits they pretend to rage against. They're not victims at system, they're fucking accessories to crime. But now it's time to meet true fucking villains behind this industrial scale mindfuck. Executives and the pet psychologists. These aren't game designers, these aren't visionaries. These are cold-blooded behavioural engineers in a boardroom, designing your child's mental breakdown with a PowerPoint presentation and a bottle of Merlot. You think Pete Actopus is some harmless bloke with a clipboard? Fuck no! Pete and his merry band of neurological parasites have been running live human experiments in psychology for years. Slot machine mechanics, social reinforcement, frustration loops. They didn't accidentally end up there. They were surgically stitched into game's DNA like some Frankenstein monstrosity built on a fucking think tank. They didn't just exploit addiction science, they pioneered it for gaming, tested it, perfected it, and now they're licensing that expertise across industry like crack dealers franchising out fucking McDonald's. And here's real kicker. There are internal documents. Heat map, engagement trackers, retention model, behavioural drift prediction. They're not studying how you play, they're studying how to own your fucking brainstem. Every single feature in Warzone, from skill-based matchmaking to staggered unlocks to seasonal FOMO, there's a calculated psychological trigger designed not to entertain you, but to trap you. Trap you into playing longer. Trap you into spending money you don't have. Trap you into needing that next fucking cosmetic like a rat hammering a lever for another pellet. You at product. Your kids at livestock. And these corporate ass garglers at farmers milking engagement out of your dopamine glands like some dystopian episode of Black Mirror. But don't worry, they'll still get the Game Awards trophies, the champagne launches, the pastel hoodie wearing creative directors crying about community love on Twitter. It's not gaming anymore, it's psychological warfare with a fucking battle pass. You still think this is about gaming? Wake fuck up! This ain't recreation anymore. It's psychological muggings with a leaderboard. And if you're still sat there defending this shit, still buying bundles like a gormless lab rat chasing another microdose of epic dopamine, congratulations, you're not a gamer anymore, you're a fucking revenue stream with thumbs. Activision don't love you, these influencers don't respect you, only thing they see when you log in is a wallet they haven't emptied yet, and a mind they haven't fully broken. But not here, not this channel. We don't kneel. We don't fucking squeal. And we sure as shit don't let these neon-suited parasites groom another generation without burning the fucking ivory towers down to the ground. So if you've got bollocks left, join Discord, follow on X, and if you're mad enough, consider becoming a goddamn channel member. Links are in the description. Smash that like button, hit subscribe, drop your rants, questions, and savage texting comments. If it's not complete bollocks, I might just feature it. I'll see you next time, you magnificent.